Good morning. You are the light of the world. About 10 years ago, I was talking to a priest, kind of like pouring my heart out to a brother priest. This is actually when I was a priest, about all the different evil things that I was seeing in society, about how dark things were getting in our culture. And I was really frustrated. And he said to me, "It's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness." That's cute, Father. This is actually how I heard it. It's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. You see, it actually really bothered me. Because it seemed to be like this sappy sentimentalism that really downplays the presence of real evil in the world. And I very much struggled with this. Every time I heard the statement since, I struggled until I began to mature more in my faith. I began to realize that I am the light of the world. I began to realize my identity. I began to realize that Jesus tells me that I'm the light of the world. It's very easy for us as Christians to become passive with regard to the darkness in the world. It's always someone else's responsibility to make things better. And I'm just very, very passive. And so it's easy for us to kind of sit back and to complain and to gripe. Democrats, Republicans, it's all their fault. It's everyone else's fault. But Jesus says today in the gospel, you are the light of the world. You are the one who's supposed to be set on a lampstand to give light to the entire world. That's your responsibility. In a real sense, we as Christians believe that we are to be light. Every Christian is supposed to bring light into the world. Now, what is this light that we're called to bring into the world? Well, on the one hand, we can say it's Jesus. We're to be Jesus to the world. That doesn't necessarily mean we need to be speaking about Jesus in every circumstance. Why? Because who is Jesus? Jesus is truth himself, love himself, justice, compassion, joy, life. This is who Jesus is. So we as Christians, when we see error, we're to bring truth. When we see injustice, we're to bring justice. Where we see despair, we are to bring hope. Right? Where we see a joylessness, a kind of a sadness, we are to bring the joy of the gospel. This is who we are. And what's interesting is that this is who we are, not just sometimes, all the time. In every single circumstance in which we find ourselves, we are not victims of the darkness in that circumstance. We are victors because of who lives in us. We are people who are in every circumstance to bring God's truth, His love, His kindness, His joy, His hope in every single circumstance. In our relationships, in our workplaces, in our schools, in our businesses, in our hospitals. As public servants, we have this ability to bring His light into every single thing, every single situation. That's who we are. And yet we have to recognize, and we have to be wise enough to recognize that there are some people who do not want us to shine. There are people in our culture that do not want us to be the light of Christ, and they resist it. Sometimes, and maybe there's some people in the parish who are experiencing varying levels of social pressure to be quiet about your faith, to keep your convictions to yourself, to say your faith is a private thing. You can do whatever you want on Sundays in your church. When you go to St. Pat's, you can do whatever you want. But do not attempt to bring your convictions to the public square. Do not try to impose your faith, your convictions on everyone else. We're not really imposing anything. We're really only just proposing. But that's what happens. And what happens in the midst of that is that we can realize that this social pressure can become a kind of or form of bullying. Getting us to be quiet, getting us to see ourselves only in terms of our own private practice and keep everyone at their, don't shed the light of Christ because it's really just for me. But the moment that we do that, the moment that we believe our faith is only private, it's not really meant to be shining for everyone else, the moment that we do that is the moment that darkness wins. It's the moment in which we put the bushel basket over our heads. And darkness begins to flourish. Sometimes we can even believe that I'm a very faith-filled Christian. I'm a very faith-filled Catholic. But I'm a very, very private person about that. I'm very private It's really other people's responsibility. That's when darkness wins. There's a saying by Edmund Burke, most of you know, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women to do nothing. As I said before, it's not like we have to preach about Jesus all the time, but it means we need to make a conscious decision to remember who we are in every circumstance and not be willing to give in to the darkness and to the evil and to the fear about what people would think, that we are on the offensive against the kingdom of darkness. It means we have to be intentional about that. And when we're intentional, that's when the world begins to change. And just as Jesus says to us, you are the light of the world, this also applies to us as a parish. This parish is supposed to be a light to this entire region of the world. To the Brighton area, to the Howell area, to wherever you're from. We're supposed to be, as a parish, a bright burning light. Back in May when we unveiled our new branding, our new logo is a flame. And that flame is a double flame. Remember, the outside of the flame is to represent the light of Christ that we are to be. And it harkens back to the ancient image of St. Patrick in Ireland. When he defied the king's order, the king says no fires can be lit on this day. He defied it because it was the day of Easter Vigil. And so St. Patrick found the highest hill and he built a very large fire and defies to say, this country belongs to the light, it belongs to Christ. And he felt called to bring the light of Christ to those who are living in the darkness of unbelief. And you know what happened? The light of Christ conquered unbelief. And the entire country of Ireland would be converted and would be a storehouse or kind of an engine of renewal across the entire world, sending missionaries everywhere because St. Patrick refused to put a bushel basket over the light that God had given to him. And inside that flame that we have as our logo, inside there's a little bigger flame and a smaller flame, which represents the power and the work of the Holy Spirit. And we humbly submitting to that, and together that makes the light of Christ to come into our culture. Imagine all of the parishioners who come through these doors recognized and really believed that they were the light of Christ. Imagine if each of us believed that and went on the offensive against darkness. What kind of city could we have? What kind of region could we have? I can almost assure you that what would happen is that the people here would see our good deeds, our good works, and they would give glory to the Father. That's really what we're called to. I want to change gears and make an important announcement. This weekend, our parish is introducing a 3-week opportunity or a 3-week window to complete a survey, an anonymous survey that takes about 10 or 15 minutes called the Disciple Maker Index. And the survey is going to be conducted to kind of get a snapshot as to where we are on a discipleship journey, where each of us is. And we're doing this for 2 primary reasons. First, as a pastor, I want you to know you have a voice as to how we do ministry here at the parish. The leadership of the parish, the staff of the parish want to know where you are, want to know what's really working, what's not. We want to know how your relationship with God is. Because we can't pastor people if we don't know where you are. So this is very helpful for me because it can change our strategy. It can change what we do or what we not do. And so we really need this data so that we can pastor well. And so this survey is like I said, is going to be anonymous, and we're going to get the data back from this survey probably around June, and we're going to share that with the entire parish. It's going to be very good for us to know where our parish is. But secondly, the second reason is, as you know, I've been asked to be the chair of this committee called the Realignment of Resources to Mission. This committee that the bishop put together to best consider how we can best realign our resources, that is our parishes, our schools, our priests, our personnel, for the sake of mission in the Diocese of Lansing. And the bishop has asked us to do something very difficult. If we're going to maybe restructure our diocese, we need to know where the parishes are at. We need to know where the worshiping community is with regard to their faith in order to best align resources for the sake of mission. And this is one of the reasons why every single parish is doing this in the diocese. And so it's very important that we respond with 100% participation. There are about 2,000 adults that come to church here every single weekend. And I want at least 1,999 people responding to this. Right? It takes about 10 to 15 minutes. You can take it in a couple of ways. One, it's on our website right now. You can just go to our website and you'll scroll down. It'll say Disciple Maker Index. Just click it. Like I said before, it's anonymous. Then the data is going to be given to us, and it's going to be given to the diocese. Or if you prefer, if you can't do it online, if you prefer, there's also paper copies in the office. We have some right outside here in the foyer. And just completely, you can fill that out and give it back to the office, and we'll have data from there. My encouragement today is to remember that you are the light of the world. Our parish is the light of this region. We cannot afford to put bushel baskets over our head because the world is much too dark for that.